And we're live. Welcome back to the LOOPcast. Today joined by Eric and Josh. Shout out to Fred in the chat doing it for me. Tom Skew, and we're live. Bingo. Josh, Erica, welcome everyone in the chat. Before we get into that, we're going to be talking about the Hegseth and other nomination fights. There's actually a few going on right now. Very interesting. I appreciate the live updates. The FDA decided to ban red dye number 3, Nature is Healing. RFK Jr. already scoring some wins before in office. And get into a little bit more. But of course, before that, we got to talk about Charity Mobile. Shout out to Charity Mobile. Looks like that's in the wrong place. Shout out to Charity Mobile, the pro-life phone company. It's time to switch, guys. When you switch to Charity Mobile, 5% of your monthly price plan goes to pro-life, pro-family charity of your choice, and no extra cost to you. Everyday living, made effortless giving. We're past Christmas season officially, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Baptism of the Lord. Unless you're one of the presentation people. So sorry, guys.
I still have my tree up, so.
You still have your tree up. Guess what? We can still have people switch to Charity Mobile.
It's still festive. All right.
If you want to use code LOOPcast, you get a little extra bonus. Visit CharityMobile.com, get all the details. Same nationwide coverage, same everything, except you get to give and feel good about it. Support pro-life charity. Thank you so much to Charity Mobile for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. Couldn't do it without you. Been in business for more than 30 years, providing U.S.-based customer service. Seriously, it's a great service. If you want to support us, go support Charity Mobile. Thank you so much for sponsoring this episode. And then this is a rough one, but we get into it here. I had to sit through way too much of that Hegseth nomination. I tried to watch in 2x speed. I'm glad Josh is here. Let's just say I'll do a little big picture, and then I want to get into general reactions, okay? So who is Pete Hegseth? And the Senate met Monday for confirmation hearing for him to be the next U.S. Secretary of Defense. He's Trump's nominee to lead the Pentagon. He is a retired Army National Guard officer and former Fox News host. The contentious session marked the first such hearing for a nominee to join Trump's second administration. We have many going on now, as I mentioned before. Pam Bondi, I believe I'm seeing some clips, is going.
The Attorney General candidate, yep.
Yeah, and so that happened.
Boy, and I tell you, I mean, she's got, a stellar record, but somebody made the comment, like, because she's in her late 50s or early 60s, you'd be surprised if she wasn't in her 30s. I mean, whatever, she's doing great. She looks amazing.
Yeah, looking good. We also have Senator Marco Rubio is up.
Oh, yeah.
I believe he's just finishing or in the first hour of his hearing. And our friend Sean Duffy, he's up for transportation secretary, and he's going today as well. So we've got a lot. We got 6 today, I think. But yeah, first one, Pete Hegseth yesterday. Whoa.
Now, it's funny, Josh, you mentioned that. Just as a outside observer, I was watching the hearing, and kind of one of these Trump 40s chess moves that I was thinking about is, in the world we live in now, it's more important than ever to really present well on TV. And some people were actually kind of maligning him as, oh, he's just a Fox News source. Of course, he's more than that. He's actually served and decorated.
Yeah, he'd be the only guy to serve as Secretary of Defense that actually was in infantry before.
That's amazing.
I believe I've heard. That'd be kind of cool.
But as just watching it and putting everything aside, he looks like a soldier. He looks like he's capable.
Central casting, as they say, right?
Central casting, very well spoken, on message, didn't get flustered. People brought up and I think in some cases legitimately so, he's had a record of infidelity, unfortunately, but I think he answered those questions pretty well. He never seemed too flustered about it. I think that's important for this.
Let me jump in on that point, because obviously I have a problem with the man who cheats on his wife, and he's done it twice, just like Donald Trump did. And I don't excuse that immoral behavior at all. I just find it interesting. I've had people complain to me about Pete Hegseth's infidelities, and it's like, hey, I'd love to have a culture where divorce and cheating on your wife and all that stuff is absolutely reprehensible, but who's really defending Pete Hegseth and saying that that's okay?
Right.
And Pete Hegseth himself has said, yes, I have made a big moral failing here. And he attributes, getting back on the right path to finding forgiveness in the Lord. Now, by the way, here's an interesting thing. You won't even believe this. Of all people, the former CNN reporter, Chris Chaliza, I can never say his name right, he actually had a profound and interesting comment about this whole point. He said, this reporter, right, secular reporter, he goes, I myself have been on a faith journey over the last year which is why I was struck by Pete Hegseth in response to Dems raising his infidelity, responding, I have failed in things in my life, and thankfully I'm redeemed by my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So this secular reporter, Chris Chiliza, said, who admits he's been on his own faith journey, and he says, I have some thoughts. And he goes, my first reaction was cynical. I mean, this is a political reporter, right? He said, because like, how convenient, right? Once Hegseth can say that I found God and now my life is different route, what really can you say to that, right? Like, are you going to publicly question his faith and conversion? This secular reporter who's now finding on his own faith journey says, Hegseth isn't dumb. He knows that. He knows attacking that faith conversion comes off as crass and evil and all that kind of stuff. But he goes, what if Hegseth really did find God?
Right.
And it changed how he views himself, women, and relationships. This reporter, Chris Chiliza, continues, I have talked to lots of people about faith over the last 18 months who have recounted how they have found God after a particularly bad period of behavior. How at the lowest moment of depravity, they found grace. And if we are being honest, none of us can look into Pete Hegseth's soul. None of us can know whether his belief in God and his conversion is genuine or political, which means I think this is a report. It's not me. He goes, which means I think you can't rush to assume that it's purely political because you don't like Hegseth or approve of his conduct. And that's the point I'd like to tip off on, because I've had people, it's one thing for people to say, I don't trust his conversion and is cynical and that kind of stuff. Fine. That's fair game politics, right? But I some of the people who are just opposing him for political reasons and that are invoking this, it just kind of drives me crazy, especially on the right. They invoke it because they don't like Pete Hegseth being, more of the American first foreign policy. And they hoping to knock him off and get a neocon in there who wants to rumble and start wars in the Middle East, or the left who has no problem with, marital infidelity in their political leaders. Not we do either with Trump. I mean, it's sort of like that ship has sailed and we need to renew our culture. Hopefully 25, 30 years from now, we're a little bit better about that stuff. But to me, it's like, it's invoking Christianity against Christians and saying, well, I don't really believe in this stuff, but you apparently do. So therefore, and it's like, well, wait a minute now.
Yeah.
We're not saying it doesn't matter how many wives this guy has or that he cheated. Like, he himself has said, I have failed. I have failed my God. I've failed my wife and my children. And I'm asking for forgiveness. So I appreciate that. Again, it's up to us to determine whether,
Yeah, it's really interesting because I think, 40 or 50 years ago, a story like what came out about Pete Hegseth and his past would have been disqualifying, right? It would have been like a scandal and, oh my gosh, you can't have someone with 3 wives in this. But we're talking, that was so long ago. So for the Democrats, and particularly watching Tim Kaine, the senator, is he Virginia? Am I right? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Tim Kaine coming and just going
Senator
after
Beta
him
Kaine.
and being like, if you
his
can't,
7-year-old daughter.
Oh, bringing up his daughter and everything. And just to listen to that, the running mate, the former running mate for Hillary Clinton. I mean, he was going to be VP and he's all right with the Clintons doing it. But it just came across from the Democrats as so out of touch again and church lady. Like I just kept thinking, I kept doing the SNL like church lady skit. I'm like, you guys. But that was, again, and I think, Josh, you're right on. And the possibility of redemption and mercy is not something that exists in the liberal worldview, in the leftist worldview, I should say, and it showed in this hearing. Again, I don't excuse him.
And Tim Kaine, of all people, should maybe shut his mouth. His son was one of the 6 people that were arrested at the Minnesota State Capitol because his son joined Antifa, and there are violent protesters inside it. Oh, isn't that an attack on democracy? It's like it's kind of funny. They only invoke J6. But.
Well, he was campaigning with Doug Emhoff, who notably has a history of infidelity. He had no issue with that. I thought Tim, and even looking at his face, I was like, honestly, so much of this, I was just studying their reactions, because I actually felt like the one way that Democrats could have succeeded here, because on a purely political basis, and what I thought Pete did a good job of, he stayed on message, and his message was something that I'd say just about everyone could get behind. Mm-hmm. Most normal people, right? Keep standards high, keep the military free from political nonsense, don't have people walking on eggshells, and let's create a lethal, effective fighting force that fights for Americans. And I thought he got that message across in his opening statement and everything else. But where they could have gotten him is if he came across as crazy, if he got really flustered, if he seemed really emotional. I think that actually could have been problematic because all that he was really trying to do here was get Joni Ernst to vote for him. And she has signaled afterwards that she is going to vote for him. And so therefore he will get confirmed.
He's going to make it. I think he's going to make it. Hands
all
down.
The other Democrats, and I think he will, but all the other Democrats, they kind of knew that, I thought. And they're like, all right, how do we just score our points for fundraising purposes or to make us seem the best or whatever? And I have to say, colossal failure. The one that I thought was the best about this, and I'd be curious, we have some military members in the chat, so I'd be curious thoughts. Touchy subject, women in the military, right? Kirsten Gillibrand, who has never served in the military, almost 60-year-old woman, just emotionally screaming in the face for 7 minutes to Pete Hegseth, decorated, I believe he's an Army Ranger, about how, I think she said like breastfeeding mothers should be serving on the front lines, and for him to suggest and denigrate, I think she used, quote, mean, were some of his statements about women on the front lines, is crazy talk. And it made her look crazy, and it made her look unserious. And if I could describe one word over the last 4 years of leadership, specifically in our military, word would be unserious. The diversity focuses, the pride,
the trans stuff, right?
The trans stuff. There's a picture of the military leader in a dog mask and a weird fetish. Lloyd,
I don't know if unserious is the word, but they're insane. They're seriously crazy,
right? So all the critics are just basically proving what I'd say the average American perceives the American military to be, and it was like great 4D chess, I'd say, from Trump. He accomplished it.
Yeah, no, 100%.
He
nailed it.
Someone in the chat made the point that Oklahoma Republican Mark Wayne Mullen performed himself admirably because, like, these senators, like, how dare you? I can't believe your behavior, Pete Hegseth. Apparently, you had a few cocktails for breakfast. And he's like, really? I mean, come on.
This is really.
None of you senators have seen others. Do you have the clip?
Oh,
no, so
that's a different one, but. Let's see. I got a Warren clip. I got invading Greenland.
Oh man, yeah. Here you go. Drinking
there was
on
some
the job.
ridiculous.
Here we go.
From this.
All right.
Up the fact that what if you showed up drunk to your job? How many senators have showed up drunk to vote at night?
Oh,
have any of you guys asked them to step down and resign for their job? And don't tell me you haven't seen it, because I know you have. And then how many senators do you know have got a divorce before cheating on their wives? Did you ask them to step down? No.
Oh my gosh.
But it's for show. You guys make sure you make a big show and point out the hypocrisy because the man's made a mistake. And you want to sit there and say that he's not qualified? Give me a joke. I mean, it is so ridiculous that you guys hold yourself as this higher standard and you forget you got a big plank in your eye.
Yes, scripture.
We've all made mistakes.
Love it.
I love
the
Coach.
best part. Yeah, the best part is Coach Tuberville.
Like, you got him, man.
When he said the thing about like divorce, cheating on your wives, Tuberville's eyebrows raised just a little bit in the background, and I'm like, "Ooh, cracked in there."
Oh, because let me tell you, in DC, there's a whole lot of stuff they know about that doesn't make the papers either. So yeah.
I love hearing DC people talk about liquor. I think if you were to do it per capita, they might be the most liquor soaked per capita.
I mean, our current vice president for another week. I mean, how much is she on the sauce?
Gosh.
I mean, all the time, you know.
Fell off the wagon a little there.
Yeah, but back to the Gillibrand thing, I think it's really smart how he presented it, and I feel like most Americans agree. We've clearly softened our standards for what you need to do to become infantry. I've been talking to people in military in my own life. The standards for everyone, period, have been lowered, which I think is a net negative for our readiness. But there is difference in standards between men and women. And I think women can be strategically used and serve admirably in the military. I think they tried to do a gotcha on how many women serve in the military, 18%. And many do a great job. He served with many of them himself. But the answer is we keep our standards high, we get rid of our quotas, and we have everyone meet the standards to serve the country. I don't know who could be against that.
I thought,
a lot of people, unfortunately.
Yeah, he did a great job articulating the difference between equality and equity, and he did it a couple of times throughout the hearing, and just saying that, like, look, we keep the same standards, because when you're in combat, the rucksack weighs the same, the machine gun weighs the same, you have to run just as fast no matter who you are. And he's like, I don't care race, gender, whatever, if you can meet the standard, but we're not going to lower the standards. Equity is different from equality. Equity is what we have right now, which is we have a certain quota we have to meet. So we're going to change standards to meet this quota. And it's not based on lethality. It's not based on readiness. It's based on ideological convictions that we have to have this amount of representation for this identity group. And what that does to military morale, I mean, a lot of us experience it in the corporate world, and it's deadening morale. Imagine that in a life and death situation. If you know that your leadership really doesn't care if you survive or not, they just want to make sure you're the right color.
I don't sleep in tents in foreign countries where people try to shoot at me with my female coworkers. Right. Like, it's a lot different when it comes to life and death situations.
And again, I just hate ideology overall. I mean, that's like the mark of a true conservative is to be against ideology. So, like, again, there's all sort of competing interests and things that we need to take into consideration as we try to move forward. Like, you should look at the policy you have currently, and then if you want to make adjustments, like, you know what, maybe our military should be a little bit more inclusive to the idea of women participating. You know, this is obviously a generation ago because we're already there, but like, common sense stuff like, hey, if we want women to serve in combat zones, but still maybe not on submarines because it's close quarters. And then if someone gets pregnant, nope, we're ideological. We just say yes to everything because it's like, well, how dare you think of situations different? Because they are different. Like, that's what just frustrates me. And then you end up with the military today, which is, I have a whole family of warriors. My brother, my sister, my father, both my grandparents, tons of warriors. Okay. So I did not serve myself, but I have utmost respect for it. So I'm not saying this kind of stuff flippantly, but somewhat it's kind of a joke, okay, that we have in the military today. That's why we're having such a problem with recruitment. Like, that's why I thought Hegseth was so on the money. He said, we won World War II with 7 4-star generals. Now think about World War II. It is a global war on 2 fronts. I mean, each of them would have been on their own would have been considered a world war, but they're happening at the same time on the other sides of the planet. He said, we won it with 7 4-star generals. Today we have 44 4-star generals. We have 470 ships in our Navy. We have 223 admirals.
Oh my goodness.
This is insane.
Yeah.
And so again, it's like the Oprah thing. You get a car, you get a car, you get a medal, you get a medal. And so then the meme's gone around on the internet a bunch. It shows Eisenhower. He's the man who led the Allied forces and freed and liberated the continent of Europe. And you see a picture of him in uniform, and he's got like a very modest bar of, medals, and ribbons or whatever.
I like Ike.
And then you got Mark Milley, the guy, and it looks like a billboard, and it's
my gosh.
And all you did is lose wars, like, I mean, all you did is screw up Afghanistan. Right. And so it's like, so all these people coming after Hegseth, I mean, I got to say, like, maybe I'm going to give him a little slack, actually, because as far as I know, he hasn't, like, I don't know, lost any wars, surrendered Bagram, botched an evacuation from the tiniest airport in the world. So, but again, as Australian commentator Greg Connolly says, you have a situation where the media is, again, obsessed with form and not results. Because results don't really matter. It's all what clicks and pays for makes flashy TV.
Right. And I think that we being at the top, being the world power, for the last 10 years, we've been able to get away with that in a way that, we've had horrible events. I mean, we think of, Benghazi, we think of Afghanistan withdrawals, but for the most part, we've been able to cruise a little bit on our laurels, but we're running on those fumes now and the recruitment shows it, the numbers show it. I was watching the hearing
And like
thinking,
the Chinese Navy, like, hello,
yeah, right. We're running behind now. We have to get back to the actual purpose of a military, which is not what it's doing currently. And I think that, well, yeah, my thought watching the hearing, I'm watching Pete Hegseth up there, my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, we're going to do equality, not equity. We're going to focus on lethality. Like if I was an 18-year-old kid watching that, I'd be like, I want to work for him. Like he plays the part. He had the articulation, and thank God he's repented of his former ways. Maybe that will also inspire the.
No, but I mean that seriously. Everything what you're saying, Eric, I agree with 100% because I said to my 3 boys after what we've experienced the last 4 years under Biden, I actively discouraged them from considering joining the military. And you have to understand. I mean, I'm talking a family of warriors. My great uncle was a prisoner of war for 3.5 years. I mean, like we were built to fight and to kill, and I respect that. But I'm like, look, if this, drag queen story hour on military bases, these guys dressed up in dog costumes for their publicity photos that are serving in the military in the uniform, wearing the weird kinky, like, no, not if that's what we're going to have. So what Josh, you say about Pete Hegseth on the money?
We're facing stiff protesters, okay? During his opening statement, this is who was protesting.
Ooh.
So.
Scary.
Yeah, what the heck is that?
No Christian jihad?
I mean,
no crusade?
no Hegseth, no crusade.
It's like military day at the gay bar. That's what it looks like.
There were people that were standing up at different times
and yelling.
During his opening statement, yelling and then getting kicked out.
I gotta say, precisely because the media does this, where they turn the cameras around and they take pictures of these people, I think we're done. I think we should not have, hearings open to the public.
Yeah,
I know that sounds strange, but it's like, the cameras are rolling. The whole purpose is we saw it with Kavanaugh. We're seeing with all these nominees, and it only happens on Republicans. It's not like, I guess I shouldn't say only because the crazy Palestine people will freak out, Gaza or whatever. But in general, I think it's a distraction, and I would close it, have the press in there for sure, but no one else, and jail time for anyone who disrupts it.
Yeah, release the transcripts. It would cut down on the theater kid theatricals. Wow, that was repetitive. Yeah, it would cut down on the theatricals.
I hate people trying to hijack this stuff like that.
Yeah. Like,
I agree, and
I don't need to watch it. Make it like the Supreme Court, where you get the audio. That's about all.
Because I guess I've sat and thought about
or video too. I don't actually mind. I just they have the gallery open for visitors who want to listen. Like, so if I wanted to attend, I could do it. But what happens is the left has understood this. Like, let's jump up and shout and scream, you tried to kill people, or whatever the heck they say, and they rush them off with security. And so I sort of feel like I would love the new Congress to say, this is dumb. We should stop doing this.
Do you think that there's a benefit to these confirmation hearings in general? So the reason I asked this is I couldn't help but listen and kind of watch many senators embarrass themselves to try to score points to fundraise, I guess. It all felt kind of meaningless because it's going to come down to a vote. I don't think any of these senators who had met with him behind closed doors are going to change their opinion based on some public display unless he really, has a nuclear meltdown. So
those have happened.
What is that the point basically to like, okay, we pressure test them here, see if they survive?
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. Judge Robert Bork during his confirmation hearings totally stepped in it, and in a way I actually understood what he meant, but like why do you want to be on the Supreme Court? It's like, oh, it'd be an intellectual feast, which is, I get what he's saying. He's like, oh, it's so exciting. But maybe people just, and then the left, like, yeah, he wants to eat us for dinner. And like, oh, great. So it became this horrible soundbite that they used against us. But in general, is it edifying? No, it's not edifying. Is it clarifying? Oh, you bet it is. Because now we can say, look, like the average Joe Six-pack, like the guys with ball caps and goatees who actually do the hard work of running the country, like driving the trucks and doing all the things that, like the firefighters and all that kind of stuff. Those are people that absolutely love Trump. And you can say, look at the buffoons in the Democratic Party, how much they hate you and how much they hate everything you stand for. Like, who do you side with? And I love the fact that remember the controversy over Pete Hegseth having the Jerusalem cross tattooed
Yeah.
on him? And it's like, oh, is this like some, right wing kind of Christian nationalist thing? And he's like, you mean, was it him who pointed it out or someone else? Like,
It was him.
yeah, that same Jerusalem cross was on the program for former President Jimmy Carter's funeral, and he's a Democrat.
Yeah.
Are you saying he was a white Christian nationalist? I mean, it's just like, it's almost like they're lying.
Yep. Well, I don't know if you caught that moment in his testimony too, where I can't remember who was asking him about this, whether or not he'd be political, because they were saying he's playing political games in the military. And he said, I actually volunteered to serve under multiple different presidencies, and I actually wanted to preside over, I want to say it was transfer of power or something like that, and he was denied by his own.
Joe Biden's inauguration. He wanted to serve at the inauguration with
and
his
they said
National
no
Guard
because
unit.
of this tattoo. Like he was somehow
because of his tattoo.
Wow. Interesting about these political games that they're saying he's going to play when it seems pretty obvious to me they've been being played for a while, for the last 4 years. I just can't wait for the next 4 years. Do you foresee, Josh, there's a lot of confirmations going on today, as we said, Pam Bondi, a few others. Do you foresee any major problems? Do you think we're going to get all of them?
Well, the ones that are coming up right now, like today, Rubio, we just had Hegseth, Pam Bondi, I think will do splendid. Ratcliffe is up. He's the CIA guy. I don't think he'll have any problems. The one wild card would still be Tulsi Gabbard. We'll see how the Senate responds to her. That hasn't got as much attention yet, but that's still one to watch. But I don't foresee too many fireworks. I mean, most of the stuff has been
RFK Jr.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Dispatch, my friend actually, I don't really like the Dispatch because there's a bunch of never Trumpers, but John McCormick he's a good guy. He's a pro-life guy. And I've known him for 25 years. So he wanted to interview me about RFK. And I just said, look, I mean, we have been, we agree with Senator Josh Hawley, who met with RFK Jr. back in December. And Josh Hawley, we talked about that here in the program, like how he assured him, like, we're going to make sure that the personnel are pro-life. I'm going to do the Mexico City and all the other pro-life policies that Trump did in his first term. And I'm going to protect the right of conscience. And so it's like those assurances were all good enough for Josh Hawley, who is absolutely superb on pro-life issues. So for us, we're like, yeah, like we were also assured by that. So again, that's going to be the thing. I mean, ironically enough, like RFK's, he's got to shore up his support on that. He's done a good job on the pro-life stuff, but then he also needs to kind of try to make sure that Big Agra isn't too freaked out about stuff. And so the senators from the Dakotas might be more concerned about, his policies on ag than anything else. So he's not out of the woods. We'll see.
Did you see Mike Pence told the senators he did not endorse him? He put out this statement like, I do not support RFK Jr. Like, Mike.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, I
just don't.
Mike Pence is an interesting fellow. I mean, like, I feel like I'm the only one in this country who has this opinion about Mike Pence. Like, I hated him when he was governor because he bended the knee to Eli Lilly on religious freedom.
Right.
Then he runs for president. I was like, okay, well, he's going to shore up the social conservative stuff. That's a sign that Trump is trying to. So, okay, that's good. And then all the 2020 election shenanigans, I largely agreed with most conservatives that there was a lot of monkey business going on the vote, but you needed to clamp down on it before November. And then after November, there's no real remedy. And all the attacks on Vice President Pence, like, oh, don't certify the election. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm sorry, dude. The Vice President of the United States, in his capacity as President of the Senate and counting electoral votes, does not have the power to throw out a state's votes. Like, that would have, even though I think, I don't know what really happened in Michigan where I live, but like, you're going to throw out my state's votes. Like, I'm sorry, that's just not the way it's done. So I think Trump, again, fomented a lot of hatred towards Mike Pence that I don't think was necessarily justified, frankly. But I'm not really like, oh, let me come up to Mike Pence's defense, because the guy, I've kind of had a grudge against him for 15 years or so. Yeah. So I think if he were smart, Mike Pence, because I guess Mike's like, oh, I'll just be the kind of not quite never Trump, but super Trump critic on the right who still got 2005 bona fides. It's like, you know what, Mike Pence, here's what you really should do. You should have a meeting with Trump and say, hey, I still don't think what you did against me on Jan 6 made sense, but I'm going to be honest and fair and like try to move the party your way, but like don't be like so negative on Trump, because I don't think it. Otherwise, you're just going to be basically ignored.
Yeah. Yep.
That's my 2 cents.
And I'm going to ignore him until he does that. So the next point I have here is I keep laughing when I think about this. We're living on the funniest possible timeline, I think, in a lot of ways. But this one has been getting me recently. So TikTok is heading towards a ban. It looks like Zhangzhou, also known as Red Note, has hit #1 on the U.S. App Store following the news of a possible TikTok ban on January 19th. Now, the idea that the TikTok vacuum will be filled by an app that's even more Chinese than TikTok is insanely hilarious.
It's literally translated Little Red Book, as in
Oh my
Mao
gosh.
Zedong's Little Red Book. That's the literal translation.
Come on.
So we're getting rid of TikTok, woohoo, and we're taking in the Little Red Book. I'm like, guys.
So
wow. Do they have Chairman Mao's photo as the icon?
Yeah, probably.
So I think that says a lot about where the American people are at in terms of who they are willing to give their data to for TikTok dances. But just a little bit of background here. So unlike TikTok, which is owned by Beijing-based ByteDance but is available in China, Red Note caters to Chinese users. So sorry, relative, ByteDance and TikTok is not available in China. They don't even allow it in China. But Red Note is in China, caters to Chinese users.
Wait, TikTok is not allowed in China?
No, not the same version that's in the United States.
Oh, it's a different version. Yeah,
it's like a science channel.
No, I know. It's all nerd stuff. They try to promote.
Yeah. So there's people hopping over, and they call it the Great Firewall. The Great Firewall is China's kind of isolated internet that they have.
Actually, that brings up a good question, though.
Yeah.
So, like in the United States, we have some of the airways, like commercials, are dedicated to like, make sure this is your war on drugs. All that kind of like those PSAs or whatever. Is that what it's called?
Yeah. Public service announcements.
Yeah,
and I'm surprised that the government hasn't tried to do any of that kind of stuff on social media stuff, like every once in a while, or at least try to steer. They've done trying to censorship stuff, but I just anyway, interesting.
Right. So interesting. Red Note is tailored to lifestyle content, largely targeted at women, but the app strictly censors politics and socially sensitive topics, including LGBTQ issues and drugs, things like that. But they're saying that it potentially might loosen that to kind of take the moment, bring people over, and get more Americans on this Chinese. I mean, there's still a potential that TikTok might be bought, I guess, by Elon Musk. I think they're still deliberating Mr. Wonderful, whatever. But at this point, maybe my issue is that Americans are just some Americans are, regardless of how their data is being used, regardless of the terms of service, regardless of all the things we say, they will find a way to get what they want. And to the point where they're willing to go to an even more Chinese app. I've seen some people jump over to Instagram or whatever, but I don't know what the solution is here. I mean,
oh my gosh,
it does.
I think Elon just needs to buy TikTok, right? That solved the Twitter problem. Elon, do you have any extra $1 billion hanging around? He does. He's recovered.
I mean,
he needs to get.
I don't know. Maybe wouldn't it be better if Elon Musk tried to like purchase ABC?
Yeah, probably.
Go get the View.
Then you could have. I don't know. Do they control the View? I thought
no, it's MSNBC, which is also going to be up for sale, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like buy ABC. Like then you can have a news division that you could try to slowly change, and you also have ESPN and Disney. You could make some different cultural changes. Not that he's going to be a full-throated conservative. Elon Musk is not. He's sort of like a centrist, but that would be interesting at least. But
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best. Well, I think the best thing would be to work toward a culture that's not addicted to ridiculous social media, death scrolling. That would probably be the best thing.
There's that. And speaking of addiction, there's the Supreme Court case that they're hearing oral arguments on it today.
Yeah.
The Free Speech Coalition versus Paxton. He's the Attorney General of the state of Texas, where they passed a child verification law to to prevent people under age 18 from accessing
Pornhub
pornography. Well, right. And so what happens is Pornhub is like, well, we don't want to be. They just remove every state that passes these age verification laws. this major smut website shuts down from that state. They can't get to it. It's like, really? I mean, in the offline world where you actually meet people face to face, if you're under 18, you can't get a tattoo. If you're under 21, you can't buy booze. You can't go into a strip club or buy porn if you're under 18. But online, what is it, the Wild West? You can do whatever you want. Like, why? What is their argument? I don't seem to understand why the age and you can't tell me with today's technology you can't do age verification in a way that doesn't like violate your privacy. Like, I mean, of course, the real wonder of it would be if we could just ban it altogether, and that would be perfectly fine. It's not pornography is not free speech. We live in the bizarro world where illicit sexual, pornography is free speech, but yet actually trying to go on to social media and say what you actually believe about. Actually, sorry, Bruce Jenner is a dude, not a girl. Right. You're not allowed to, so no political free speech, but you get pornography. That's the upside down world we live in today.
I have a suggestion. If we're in the banning mood, I think it'd be much better for society to ban OnlyFans than it would be to TikTok.
100%.
I saw an insane statistic that 1 in 4 women in America have posted on OnlyFans.
1 in 4?
In some capacity.
In a demographic or something?
Yeah, right. I think it's like a certain age, obviously. But it's hard to even like wrap your mind around what,
I feel sick.
I know what that could possibly do to the country. I mean,
yeah. Oh my gosh.
Crazy. Speaking, we are in the banning mood. So before I get on to,
I just think all men should do should do prayers of reparation. Just that makes me sad.
Amen to that. But we're in the banning mood. The FDA has officially banned red dye number 3. Artificial coloring used in beverages, candy, and other foods. Notably, I don't want to be totally wrong in this. Someone can fact check me. I'm pretty sure it's used in stuff like Advil or ibuprofen, which is insane to me. Like what?
Yeah, to get the red color.
They need to turn it red. I was doing
some research and I didn't see medications come up, although it's obviously artificial coloring for those because there's nothing in nature that's the color of an Advil pill. But mostly in the candies, in red, like fruit cocktails. Shirley Temple probably has a lot of this in it. And my beloved Sour Patch Kids. Oh,
are your Sour Patch Kids head?
I love Sour Patch. In fact, there's usually about a week during the early stages of pregnancy where I live exclusively on Sour Patch Kids and red Gatorade. So I don't know. My kids seem fine, but I've been like ingesting this like.
Do you like the Sour Patch Kids stuff?
Oh, it's a pregnancy thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was gonna say I think it's like nasty.
But couldn't you enjoy that? Just have it not be red.
It's true.
Well,
I would enjoy
red.
The flavor.
Like there are red dyes that are just they're not neon crazy color. Like
I'll take beet or something.
Yeah, use like a natural substitute. I mean, they were seeing that it was causing cancer in rats, and that was the line. They're like, oh, we need to see that.
Oh,
what are we talking
Rosie
about
says,
here?
Tom, Rosie says, red dye, yes, it is used in some pharmaceuticals. Woo, good job, Rosie.
Yeah, I mean, some stuff it really just it defies logic that it's in. Like I don't know. I know that some people do it because consumer preferences in the United States, they like to see the color that they're eating, and this is the most probably cost sensitive. And
we do it for ground beef. Ground beef looks kind of like that gray color, so they add red coloring, so it makes it look like it's real meat.
Looks fresh.
Like
yeah,
that's all.
That's actually fake.
Yeah,
I would love. True. I would love to do away with that. I mean, I don't need to live in a simulated world where things look a certain way that shouldn't look that way.
I have a question though. Is this a sign? Is the FDA preparing for an RFK taking of the reins? Is that what this is? Is this RFK winning before he's even in? Just like we have Trump winning in like partially the Middle East before.
Although, I mean, Senator Tuberville got on this bandwagon ahead of this and was going after the FDA in those hearings back in December, I can remember, and was asking, have you done any studies on how the red dye number 3 affects kids? And they're like, and they're kind of spinning their wheels. And so, I mean, it is an RFK effect, but like it was, I think it was in the works because of the hearing where they were like kind of spinning their wheels. So.
Nice. I'm ready. Bring it on.
And I guess, so I see Rick in the chat, and I think this is actually an example in which I've very much changed my opinion on government. I used to maybe be a little bit more libertarian sensitive. Not a fan of the government banning things. Used to be a conservative ideal, but now you have to switch to libertarian to get government out of our lives. I actually think, and Trump actually in a funny way kind of did this. He's starting the External Revenue Service, apparently, which is creating a new government agency because it's like we've taxed internally too much.
I love
It's
it.
time to start collecting on tariffs from other countries taking advantage of us. No more tax on our people. I think the purpose of government and the unique responsibility of government is to promote the common good. And there are forces and incentives to do things that do not promote the common good. And we get to come together and we get to argue about what the common good is when it comes to health, when it comes to law and order, when it comes to different things. And if we don't have a strong, central, functioning body to take care of those things, there's abuses. And so specifically in the case of red dye number 3, that should be banned. It's been banned in many other countries. It's causing cancer in rats. I don't think that it's promoting the common good to put that in kids' mouths or into adults' mouths. So get rid of it. I don't see any problem with that.
And I would say, like in the United States, after the Civil War was ended, we had probably our most, free market, libertarian kind of government for like about 40 years or so there. And it was good in some ways, obviously, an explosion of wealth. We're able to welcome in millions of people. Slaves were able to, have some livelihood. Not that everything was fine. I'm not trying to say that. But it was probably the most libertarian government ever until we hit 1913 progressive era. But, you got to kind of own some of this. What is the nature of it? Like, it's one thing you build up a business, the libertarian idea, well, you have a business, you have a reputation. That's why you're not going to sell bad food. Yeah, but then the railroads come along and you can make food and it goes down the tracks 300 miles. You're like, wow, I'm not going to ever see this person again or whatever. And so that's why as we get to the first decade of the 20th century, there was this call for a Pure Food and Drug Act and the creation of the FDA, precisely because, people are getting meat that was rancid and they were getting food that was horrible. And, that's why the Heinz bottle is clear. They're like, hey, we're going to show you what we got. And we're not afraid of the government coming and looking at what, so reputation alone and relying purely on the free market wasn't getting the job done. I'm not a big fan of regulatory, regimes and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, you do have, when you're talking about 3,000 miles from coast to coast, there has to be an understanding of that. It's not like we're all just living in our village. Like, I can't believe that guy's poisoning us. There has to be some sort of stuff like that.
Accountability.
Pollution's a great example of that. And RFK Jr. spent his early career fighting people on that. It's like, no, companies shouldn't be able to dump toxins into the local lake, kill the fish, poison the people. That's wrong. And if we just operated under pure capitalism, then they could do that. There would be nothing stopping them from doing it.
Well, that's the thing. Like that is the one thing with the commons. Like who owns the lake and the river? No, no one does, and therefore, yeah, you have to create laws to regulate that. Otherwise, you're right. People just like whatever. So, like in England, the way it's situated is that the king owns all of the rivers and the ocean or whatever. So, like, if you're polluting, you're going against his territory. So that's their way of getting around the problem of the commons, as they call it.
So interesting.
In this country, it's the same way. It has to be essentially, basically, the government. Like they have to regulate it. That so.
Josh, you are so wise. I appreciate your perspective.
Comment in the comment here, zero regulation would only work in a highly virtuous society. In fact, Aquinas says it only would work if men were angels. So we're like a non-fallen society.
Yeah, what is
we
that
have
quote?
to have
like,
rules.
Yeah, government would, a society with no government would only work if we're all angels, and if we're all angels, we wouldn't need one anyway.
Exactly. Yep, that's the quote. Yeah. You got it.
Bang.
I'm definitely not an angel. I need me some guidelines.
Neither.
Yeah.
Okay. And we could debate about the guidelines, and that's kind of the magic of America. Okay. What else do we have before we get in the Twilight Zone here? So we have Word on Fire new initiative. You guys want to talk about that?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, this was really interesting. This just came out. He's Bishop Barron, who we know and love. Bishop Barron is establishing, he just announced yesterday, a new priestly order devoted to evangelization and drawing people to a deeper relationship with Jesus Christ in the spirit of Word on Fire. So he's essentially becoming a founder of a new religious order, which is completely a prerogative of a bishop. He can, usually if you want to start a religious order in a diocese, you have to get the approval of the local bishop. He is the local bishop. I'm excited to see where this goes. They've been producing, we know that the Catholicism series was kind of the breakout product that they had, but also they've moved on from there to beautiful books editions, his podcast, obviously, long form interviews. Yeah, and he is clearly a man who is a father and a teacher, and yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm always a little nervous about founding a new religious order, but I think, since he is the local bishop, has a good shot at it. Excited. Go Word on Fire.
I largely approve. I mean, it's just kind of funny. Like they have like sort of they're all bodybuilders, It's like, Bishop Barron's totally ripped. He's like, so like, what's going to be harder to join this order, the spiritual exercises or the actual exercises?
Or both. Yep.
Dude, and they got Father Mike Schmitz up there too. Minnesota might have the most jacked priests in the country, I would say.
Hey,
it would be our representatives if there was a like a powerlifting competition for Catholicism in the world, that we would put them forth.
Yep.
All right, cool. So I have Twilight Zone now. Josh, you're up first.
Yeah, this kind of torques me. So Vice President Kamala Harris has this Harris Fight Fund, and you're probably wondering, why would Kamala Harris, she's going to be out of power here in a few days. She lost the election. Why is she still trying to raise money? And she's trying to stoke people, get them upset, and raise money so she can pay off her campaign debt and all this other kind of stuff. So she sends, the Harris Fight Fund sent out an email with a photograph. And it's of Senator Deb Fischer. She's from Nebraska. She was sworn into another term. And obviously Kamala Harris being the vice president, she's the president of the Senate. Kamala Harris is the one who swears the senators in, not just the new senators, but anyone who gets another term. And so there she is swearing in the Senate. So the photo they sent on this fundraising email is Vice President Harris, reaching out her hand to shake the hands of the new senator, obviously, and then also to shake the hands of their spouse. That's like sort of the custom or whatever. So she turns to place her hand to shake Deb Fischer's husband's hand. Well, here's the problem. The husband was holding with one hand the Bible, in which Deb, his wife, was going to be sworn in, and the other hand was his cane that was holding him up. And so Vice President Kamala Harris is handing, he's like, I got no hands to shake you. I got a Bible in one hand and a cane in the other.
Right.
And that's kind of like kind of a embarrassing thing or whatever, whatever. And, no big deal. Right. But online, the left was like, this senator's husband refuses to shake Vice President Kamala Harris's hand. And everyone's like, what are you talking about? It got community noted and everything. He couldn't shake her hand because literally he had no free hand. He had a Bible in one hand and a cane in the other hand. And so this happened on January 3rd. It's not like this happened yesterday and this fundraising email went out like an hour or so later. It's been, 2 weeks almost? So everyone knows what really happened. He didn't shake her hand because he had no hand to shake. But Kamala Harris's Harris Fight Fund decides to put this photo in their email saying, some people will do what they do. We'll focus on what we must. Fighting for the future of our country. So she didn't say in this email, so she's got plausible deniability. She's like, I didn't say anything that he couldn't shake a hand, but her campaign knew exactly what they were doing. This is outrageous, disgusting, shameful gaslighting behavior from a despicable person who, thank the good Lord, was not elected president of our country.
Dude.
Thank God.
A documentary on how the Kamala Harris campaign lost after fundraising $1 billion would feed families. Like, I would love to see an inside documentary of all the stupid stuff they did and continue to do to this point. It's almost it boggles the mind a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was the talk about former President Bill Clinton even reached out to the Kamala Harris campaign and said, dude, you're getting beat up on this them thing, on the pronoun stuff, on caring more about trans than the average voter. You should kind of, change things or whatever. And they totally ignored his advice. And by the way, I think that probably happened with 2016. Like Bill's like, I probably shouldn't tell Hillary, not to focus on that because she'd probably throw a vase at him or something like that. But, I don't like Bill Clinton, but he knew what he was talking about. He knew he got elected twice. So neither did Harris or Hillary. So.
Very true. Thank goodness. Erica.
Yeah, this one just blew my mind. So we have this story out of the University of Texas system. This is University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston. They developed an AI simulation tool to train their medical students to counsel pregnant, well, they call it pregnant persons, to counsel mothers to get an abortion. And this was in response. The article from Politico just it is a patent. It professedly, that's what I'm trying to look for, a professed attempt to get doctors trained in a situation where the state has a rigorous abortion restriction. They have the heartbeat law down in Texas. Of course, Politico calls it an abortion ban, which is not accurate. To get around that law, to train doctors to talk to women, talk through how they can still get the exception to get the abortion. And the results of the study, they use this tool. They have a simulation. The students go in, they learn to talk to the pregnant person. And then the students come out. 65% of those surveys reported feeling more comfortable about eventually providing counseling on how to get abortions. This is just, anyway, it's maddening, and it's just a sign of the culture of death. Maddening, especially the University of Texas is publicly funded university. For it to be using the taxpayer dollars of the people of Texas, massive betrayal of public confidence and public trust. And I just had to thumbs down. Yeah.
Josh is putting skull in the chat after the Vikings, like the Lions broke the Vikings.
Listen, Emily in the chat said skull in response to the good Minnesota priests. So I'm going to give her respect for
you guys need to chill on skull for a little
bit. Actually, my wife suggested I should wear the vest today because I lost to your Lions, but there's only so much humiliation I'll endure.
Oh my gosh. Oh, another question in the chat. Did I hear correctly that Biden's choices for VP were Harris or Karen Bass? You did. Karen Bass was in the top 3, I think. Top 3 contenders.
As well
VP.
As Gretchen Whitmer.
Mayor of Los Angeles. Great.
Yeah, that would have been better. So anyway.
It's true.
I think we have frozen Tom.
Oh no. Our fearless leader is frozen. All right. Let's see what he had. Oh, he's back.
Uh-oh. Wi-Fi out here. I was getting too mean on the skull talk. Sorry, what did I miss?
I don't know, but we're like swinging around here in the video. This is great. And you're all fuzzy.
Right. I'm back. I have 2. Am I bad?
Oh, something just fell down.
Okay, this is all falling apart.
Yeah.
Okay, if you can hear me. I have 2, and this is a recent ad because Erica brought this up. I'm going to address this once, and I'm never going to mention him again. Andrew Tate. There was controversy online because Benny Johnson hosted him on a show, and then everyone got to say that Benny Johnson is wrong because he's a terrible person and like groomed women in Romania, which I think it's provable he did. And now they get to be like, oh, free speech, yada, yada, yada. And then Benny Johnson comes back like, I thought you believed in free speech. First off, this is what I'll say about all that. It's the dumbest. This whole thing is so stupid, it means nothing, and all the people are just circularly generating clicks and attention off of it. That's why I don't even like talking about him, because I put him in a class of people that operate on a different plane of reality. We have him, Destiny, who else would I put up there? Like Nick Fuentes, maybe.
Pearl Davis, whatever her name is.
Pearl Davis, yeah, great example. These people don't operate in reality. They play by different rules than everyone else so that they can change the rules.
They're online shock jocks.
Online shock jocks, they've been around for a while before them, but that's why it always annoys me when people use them for clicks and attention, because that's the only metric in which they see success. The only reason that they make any money or they're relevant at all is because they get you. They get you to talk about them. They get you to look at them. And people are trying to say like, oh, Andrew Tate has influence among the youth. The youth are influenced by dumb stuff. They always have been forever. And then they grow up, they learn, and they realize that these people are meaningless and have no value. So it just shocks me that people still play his game and they get to go around. I know why they do.
Your concern in terms of playing the game is your concern. Obviously, don't elevate him, which is I would not have done obviously at all, like Benny did. But your point is, even to elevate him in order to dunk on him, you run the risk of promoting him.
Not only do you run the risk, you do promote him. You get people to look at him, and then he gets more attention, and that's all they want to begin with. So maybe what's frustrating on multiple elements, Benny, I think, is in the same camp of generating clicks and attention. It's what he does, and he does it well, and he makes a lot of money doing it. So of course he's going to do that. But even the people that get to score cheap points off of saying, "Oh, he's a terrible person, you shouldn't have had him on," yada yada yada, you're doing the same thing.
Well,
And so it
if
frustrates me
all
that
it is
they
is
do
a
it.
slight criticism, like someone in the chat was saying he shouldn't have elevated him, and like that's okay. I agree with that person in the chat saying don't do that.
Yes. So I don't want to talk about him again. I want everyone, hopefully, I think we're all on the same page here. Him, Destiny, whatever. These people don't operate under good faith. They operate exclusively under bad faith, and therefore they can say and do whatever they want, even if it contradicts itself, even if it makes a reputation
So
worse. It doesn't matter.
sparingly, only when you absolutely need to take the time to take a beat and say this guy is poison, but try to avoid giving him oxygen.
Yes. Do not give him oxygen. Don't give him attention. Yeah. It frustrates me when commentators do so. It frustrates me because, sure, Benny can do what he wants, but it's a prudence question, not a free speech question. Okay. Yeah, it's a free country. You can do whatever you want.
I'm going to push back just a little bit on that because I think that in this case, part of the problem is that there is really something called the woke right. And that's sort of like the far, far, far right extremists who are that it might be a minority, right? And it might be way out there. But at the same time, they do have a gravitational pull. People like Fuentes, people like Andrew Tate, Pearl, and all that. They do have a gravitational pull. And I think it is a matter of prudence when they do surface into the more mainstream conservative discourse. It's a matter of prudence when they need to be corrected and shut down and just exposed for who they actually are. Because you do need that sort of check on them creeping into more mainstream conservative discourse. The Overton window can shift in the wrong way to the right as well as to the extreme left. So I think there is a place for public commentators to be like, Benny Johnson, like totally like disreputable guy you had on, you know. So I understand not giving it more oxygen, but when they do get that sort of publicity, to just be like, this is ridiculous.
I agree, kind of.
Well, I mean, we're doing it right now, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. We're doing it now.
You brought it up, Pogo.
I brought it up, and that's what I'm saying. I'm going to talk about it now, and I'm never going to talk about it again because I think these people are so ridiculous.
In hopes that we don't ever have to talk about them again.
Yeah, in hopes that we ever don't. I'm going to say the average person's experience is you let these people shoot their mouth, you look into them and see if they're legitimate. They quickly burn bridges in their own reputation if you're observing them objectively because they contradict themselves. They do things that are ridiculous. And even like a good example would be like James Lindsay, right? James Lindsay made his career off of trolling. He trolled an online it was a publication, I think, a medical publication or an academic publication by submitting a fake study.
Yeah.
However, it's now coming out that this whole woke right garbage, he's in an open marriage and he lives a crazy life and he goes back and forth. And now people are upset that he's trolling on the wrong side. It's like, well, maybe you should just acknowledge he is a troll. It's what he does. He doesn't have serious things to contribute. Therefore, a question of prudence, having him at a Christian conference is probably not smart because he doesn't. He hasn't lived a life of substance. He doesn't have things to contribute beyond being a troll. And I'm not even saying sometimes the troll is positive, sometimes it's bad. But holding him up as this idea of like virtue or paragon is dumb. I think they burn their own bridges themselves. You don't need to get in and dunk on them.
I guess what we need to be is cognizant of the issues that are going on so that if how is it that Pearl Davis is getting currency on what she's saying about feminism? Why, is Andrew Tate getting some currency and some following because of what he's saying on masculinity or whatever? And understand that and try to address the root causes of that so people don't fall for that, the allure of these, bad people.
Yeah. That's why you won't hear me talk about them often. But I don't think they're serious.
I believe
we should talk about the issues, so when, address these things, cultural, that's our job. So that in hopes that people don't fall for that luster of their arguments. They go, what are you talking about? No, come on.
Yeah. On a more serious news of people that hold power and make decisions, Karen Bass recall, I think you might have mentioned this while I dipped out for a second. I cannot get over how funny the rest of the situation in LA, total tragedy situation. Pray for them. People are losing their homes and livelihood. I think that's terrible. The people that run LA and California are insane, certifiably. So while Bass was in Ghana, while this was going on, watching things on a tablet, I guess, her deputy mayor for public safety was also on leave at the time. So the person that she left potentially in charge to handle something like this, public safety, why was he on leave? He called in a bomb threat to City Hall.
What? What? Was there a bomb threat?
There was an FBI raid at his house in connection to an investigation regarding a bomb threat he allegedly made against City Hall. This guy's in charge of public safety.
Oh my gosh. Guys.
You can't even make this up.
Stop voting these people in.
What are we doing?
Man.
How did this guy get here?
It's like I want to just tell people,
Oh
Angelinos, like maybe, just maybe, vote Republican. I don't know. Just a crazy idea.
It's this stuff that puts the Babylon Bee out of business because, like, they can't even match this.
Right.
Satire. This is beyond all satire. He called in a bomb threat.
The guy
And he's
in charge of public safety. Yeah.
That is Twilight Zone. That wins. Oh my gosh.
That's like one-upping. Who was the guy that pulled the fire alarm in Congress?
Oh, yeah, and he got
Bowman.
voted. Yeah, Bowman. His constituency said no. No.
That's one up. And look, Republicans, I'm not even saying vote Republican because they don't do dumb stuff too. They do too. Let's hire people with integrity, character that actually can do a job instead of.
No, but it's just the case that if you have an area that has only voted one way over decades and generations, it tends to you need to move things around, turn things up a little bit.
Time to
Caruso isn't even like it's not like Rick Caruso would have been a Trumpian,
right?
He just would have been a non-psycho.
He just would have been an improvement, not crazy.
No bomb threats in his past. Okay, good show, guys. If you want to do one thing to help out the show right now, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube. Leave a like on this episode. We will be providing some cool coverage after the fact from our experience at inauguration. That will be on YouTube, so go there and check. Go ahead and just subscribe. That helps us out a ton. If there's one thing you do today, go do that. Thank you to our sponsor, Charity Mobile. And we will be back with a full show on Friday with a little bit of preparation for what we got going on. See some more confirmation stuff. Should be good. Pray for us. St. Thomas More, San Fidelis, Our Lady of Guadalupe.